to the Cinementalists. Noun, plural. Definition, those whose love for movies runs so deep, they can't help but do a podcast about them. Hosted by Colton Robertson and Joseph George. Hello everybody and welcome in to the Cinementalists. Today we kick off a brand new month of movie coverage. It's sci-fi month here in March, and we are going to start it with AI, Artificial Intelligence, released on June 29th, 2001, based on a story by Brian Aldiss, with a screenplay by Steven Spielberg, directed by Steven Spielberg. I'm Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you. Man, this was a fun one. This is the first time in a few weeks we are, Nope was the last one that we'd both seen going into it. This is the first time we've done that since then. How'd you feel about this rewatch of AI?
Yeah, this one, it's nice. Number 2 for me. Yeah, this no watches in between the last time I watched it. But yeah, I guess I haven't checked my activity to see when was the actual last time I watched it. But it's this one, at least I got more out of it than the first time. I feel like the first time you're watching, you're kind of going through the roller coaster of it. There's kind of you don't know obviously what to expect.
Tonal shifts and a lot of up and down. Yeah, for sure.
But knowing the railroad beforehand, or knowing the pathway, was really nice, and not really being caught off guard or anything. So I don't know. I was able to kind of just sit back more and enjoy,
surrender to it.
Yeah. So,
nah, man, I had a great time with it. Also, it was also my second viewing of it. I'm happy to be kicking off a science fiction month with something as grandiose as this. This is an epic, and I love that. I love that. I think that we are privileged to have a performer like Haley Joel Osment. I'm not like, what an unbelievable child actor. Like, it's insane how good he was as a small kid. I
guess I know him only from here in Sixth Sense. Pretty much. But like, I wonder who directed Shyamalan? Okay.
Shyamalan.
I don't know. Maybe it is just a nod to, don't want to discredit the acting anyway,
the boy,
just the direction. Maybe like Spielberg just has a way with kids. I feel like
obviously you had E.T. and Jurassic Park and all that good stuff, for sure.
And I feel like this is just kind of a combination of really just actually good young talent, and Spielberg just being really good with kids. Because how to get a kid to be so robotic and like so.
And then eventually so expressive.
It's crazy. It's like the slow evolution of it. I don't know. It's like perfect. I wonder. Let's see. I wonder how old. Let's see, or like how old he was in the time of filming.
Probably 10.
But he's like, which is like in. Like, I am Hot Wheels, or like, I don't know, I'm worried about like the stupidest shit, and this dude is already I don't know. That's
and he like would have already done Sixth Sense too. By the way, like this is a second film, and it's not his second film. He was in a lot more than that, but this comes after Sixth Sense, and it's unbelievable career for him at such a young age, but. It's also funny enough. This movie was mentioned in one of the diss tracks between Kendrick and Drake last year. I don't know if you'll recall.
Really?
And Kendrick Lamar mistakenly refers to Haley Joel Osment, the actor, as Joel Osteen, the mega church, guy who makes a bunch of money off of his constituents. Okay. He mistakenly calls him Joel Osteen, which is not the kid's name, but he goes, now I'm feeling like Joel Osteen. Funny, he was in a film called AI. Now my sixth sense telling me to off him, which is a good bar. But yeah, What
Okay,
am I
yeah.
battle? He goes, am I battling ghosts or AI? Funny feeling like Joel Osteen. Funny he was in a film called AI. Now I'm 6 cents telling me to off him. Yeah, it's yeah, that's the nice little connection there. Kendrick Lamar fucks
Mm.
with AI, artificial intelligence to some degree.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
got
I
to
mean,
assume that's just something he had in his bag if he mistakenly referred to Haley Joel Osment as Joel Osteen. It's not like he looked into it and was like, what applies here?
I
Like he was like,
wonder if it is a purposeful mix up. If the is there any
no.
yeah, no,
I
I'm
don't
trying
think
to
so.
think.
I think this was
Yeah.
just one of those rare
It's just it's
whoops.
close and it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
quite.
Like it just kind
But
of Joel Os. Those are in both names. I don't know.
mm-hmm.
I do think
But
it was an honest mistake, but yeah, it was.
I guess I don't know. I feel like Kendrick is at least aware of the
hmm
movie. I feel like yeah, you
he,
can't not watch it. I don't know. Maybe it is truly just he knows of it and it's for one bar and that is it. But I feel like he's
yeah,
seen it, which
yeah.
is
He's seen
nice.
it. He's
Nice to
seen
kind
it.
of know, in the back
Well,
of my
and
head.
storied history of this movie for sure. Like it was in production hell for like 15 years before it finally got made. Stanley
Mm,
Kubrick
yeah.
obviously developed this very, very heavily in the decade and a half prior to his death. And it wasn't until his death that it actually managed to get off the
Mm-hmm.
ground in any capacity. Um, and there's a lot of conflicting accounts of how much of this movie is Spielberg's vision and how much of it
Mm-hmm.
is Kubrick's and what happened there. And Spielberg and the original writer Brian Aldiss are both kind of, or Ian Watson, I think, is who it was. There's another writer in there. They all kind of, they're like, there's a lot of Kubrick in there. Like the
Hmm.
first 40 minutes or so are very Kubrick, and the ending is pretty much exactly what Kubrick kind of envisioned, which is kind of surprising. I think that
Wow.
there's now the middle section is just overwhelmingly Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever it feels like we bounce from these first 40 minutes, then we're going to the flesh fair and all that stuff. We're going to the city, Rouge City, and all that. Like that's Spielberg. I think he
Mm-hmm.
did that. And it's obviously like there's still, this is a rare one for Spielberg. I do think it deals with it obviously comes back to the sentimentality of like a mother's love and and all that good stuff, which on the other side of the Fablemans obviously is a really,
Mm-hmm.
really interesting story for him to be telling. But um I think that he does still deal with stuff that is a little bit not mature for him, but like there's a lot of sexual stuff that he just never
Mm.
he never does. And even then it's downplayed like crazy for a Spielberg movie. Like this guy's Gigolo
Mm-hmm.
Joe and we see him do this one
Yeah.
thing once. And even then it's not like a sex scene or anything. It's like it's just kind of like
You
it's
get the
it's
idea.
getting the engine
Yeah.
revving. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the tunnels that are mouth wide open women and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy. I love it.
Yeah, this is Vegas in 500 years, or I don't know. Maybe just like actually 5 years.
Maybe five.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe five.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
was a little too off there, but no, that yeah, I feel like even the ending feels the most Kubrick or Kubrick. Um,
Either or is going to be fine.
yeah, I guess the ending is what felt the most Kubrick to me, at least. Kind of it felt just kind of like I don't know, like reminded me of 2001. We're just the ending. You're like, what? We're well, okay, like we're here
hmm
now, kind of going on this way more grand kind of ride. But the
And I do think
beginning,
I think it's Spielberg channeling Kubrick. So like
mm-hmm,
it's one of those things where it is more palatable than the ending of 2001. Obviously,
mm-hmm,
it's a
yeah,
little bit easier to wrap your head around and a little
that's
easier
true.
to it's a
Yeah,
little easier to decipher, but it's still very layered. There's still a lot of philosophical conundrum, like the voiceover being like I appreciate that there's just a voiceover in the last 30 minutes of this
mm,
movie that all of a sudden kicks in
mm-hmm.
and you're like, "Oh, okay, cool."
All right.
Um
2,000 years are passing now. I get,
yeah.
it's like, yeah, I guess there's a lot of time, a lot of things happening. It was nice just
Mm,
to have them told. I don't know, instead of having to guess on
right, right.
some things. But yeah, I don't, like at least it was always, I don't know. I feel like if you make the kid look way more robotic, at least that's when I was looking at some stuff. I guess Kubrick wanted David to appear way more robotic, or like way
Yeah,
too
he wanted him to
perfect,
be
or
entirely. He wanted him to be
mhm.
entirely computer generated too. He didn't
Yeah.
want it to be an actor originally, but
Yeah,
tech's still not there, and it certainly wasn't then.
and even then, I feel like it's not a good. I don't know. I feel like the decision to have like cloning technology, or this technology to the point where they basically look like humans, and it is you can't tell the difference unless you x-ray them, I think like adds to the story way more
Mm-hmm.
than it like being, oh well, we can obviously tell from the first second of looking at you that you're
Right.
you're not a human. And so like I think it's because I like everyone at the rally, that's kind of like, that's a kid, like what the fuck are you doing, like it's a whole
Mm-hmm.
different thing whenever it's just a kid. And I think it's always, I always love the kind of debate on like just where consciousness, or where is the line that we draw of like when
Mm-hmm.
something becomes too much to like just be okay with killing or doing whatever, like we can send a computer to do a task and not feel bad about it, whatever, but then it has a face and starts to talk like us a little bit, and then we're like, hold on a second, it's like, so it's this weird gray area. And like obviously I don't think we're close enough to the point of making kids like David popping
Yeah.
out, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's at least within our kids' lifetime. I feel like, of having like a robot that is a kind of a little too real to tell the difference, which is, it's science fiction now, but it's crazy to think that like within maybe my kids' lifetime they could see that
Mm-hmm.
event happening. But yeah, I don't know. This movie has a lot of that, I guess. A lot of just dealing, even at the beginning with all of the just people who make David, the different engineers or artists or
Right.
that group, and they're like, well, we can make a kid, we can do it, but how are you going to get the human to love the robot?
Yeah.
How are That's like a whole bigger problem, and I love like that they're just jumping into that right away, like right off the opening of
Well,
the
and
movie.
like it's a smart business choice, like if it's just some novelty that they
Mm.
immediately get, and it's they're like, ah, well, I can't figure out how to connect myself to this doll. That's all
Mm-hmm.
right. We'll just go ahead and send it back. Like that
Mm-hmm.
it's from a business perspective, that is an
Oh, it's so fucked. It's like, yeah,
yeah.
oh, the imprinting, it's like, yeah, well, once you imprint, you can't like, it's yours. You have to destroy it. And like there's no selling it back. Like it
Mommy.
is, yeah. Oh my God, dude, it is like, oh, and in the way how like that, I mean, the opening is, it might still be my favorite part of the movie. I mean, I think
No,
it's just,
it's
it's so
undoubtedly
good.
my
It's
favorite.
so well
I think that
made.
there's
It's like, yeah.
there's a lot going on all over this movie, of course, but I do think that the build up of that first act, I mean,
Mm.
it's what the entire rest of the movie depends on, and it's
Mm-hmm.
a long walk. You get the entire first act. Like, we're talking almost an hour of the movie is spent there before she leaves him in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of film. Like, it is, it's the emotional basis on everything David does the rest of the film. So like, it had to stand up, and I think that it does. I think that, funny enough, as exciting it is and as fun as it is, my least favorite part of the movie is definitely kind of Rouge City and all that stuff we do there with when
Mm-hmm.
David and Gigolo Joe are walking side by side the whole time. And obviously, don't get me wrong, I don't think it's bad. I don't not like it. It's just that I do like the beginning and the end more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that there's a certain element to the relationship formed between Gigolo Joe and David that I wish I would feel a little bit more.
Mm. Yeah,
There's,
that's
whenever
true.
they go their separate ways, and he's like, I am, I was, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wish I would have felt that a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's this movie somehow perhaps a little too long, and also somehow a bit overstuffed.
Yeah, you're
And
right. Yeah,
just
that
a little bit,
Joe.
not to the point where I'm like, oh, I don't love this movie. I do. I think it's a great time, but I do think that there's a weird balance there where I think somehow it needs to be probably 20 minutes shorter, and they
Mm-hmm.
probably need to lose some of the story. Yeah, like it's just there's just
Yeah.
so much here, you know.
Yeah, Joe just kind of ultimately feels like an usher for David. Just kind of like
Yeah,
ushering him
guide.
along his way, just kind of, doesn't like it. I don't know what they could have done of maybe like he only really dealt with his mom or the mother figure because she was the only one to imprint on him.
Yeah.
And I feel like it could have been interesting to maybe um, deal with, I don't know, like him wanting a father, maybe, or out of, the father figure. And like, I never had a father imprint on me. I
Mm.
don't know. But then Joe's not human. So I don't know how to really play with that. But yeah, like,
Well, and it seems like they didn't either, because I think you're getting at
mm-hmm,
what they wanted to do. You know,
mm,
I do think that is
yeah,
something that was like kind of in the cards for what they wanted for the Joe character.
mm-hmm,
Um,
just not,
but it
yeah,
ultimately comes off more, I don't know, like you said, like a little more than a guide, and at
mm-hmm,
most an influential uncle. You know,
yeah,
like it's a weird relationship that they have that never really gets fully explored.
mm-hmm.
They never really
Yes.
have time to explore it. It's just kind of one thing after the next with them. They're going from place to place. They're doing thing after thing, and that's that. You know, it's actually kind of crazy that the
Mm-hmm.
amount of time they spend together is probably the biggest amount of time in the movie as far as the acts. Like probably about 50
Yeah.
minutes at the beginning with the mom. I would say probably
Mm-hmm.
an hour to an hour and 5 minutes with Joe and David, and then the ending is like 20 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
So
And his end is pretty unceremonious as well. It is just kind of like, oh, they're back. They have him. He's being sucked up by a magnet, and he's
and
gone.
he's gone.
And
Yeah.
and yeah, his line, like I took it down as maybe my favorite line in the movie, not because like I do feel bad, like I'm not tearing up because Joe's leaving. It's more of just like, um, I wonder, like this is kind of the best kind of definition I've arrived at, kind of like what consciousness could be, of like that he did exist at one point, he won't at another, and he was something in that middle ground. I don't know, there is something
Hmm.
there. He existed, and but I don't know if that's necessarily consciousness. I don't know, but it was a kind of a hard bar to end with. I feel
Oh,
like, for a
100%.
character, yeah, I
100%.
really didn't
I
care
think,
about a whole
well,
lot.
and
It
that's the
was.
thing, is I think they're trying to anchor that he has grown, obviously. Whenever he came onto the scene with David, he was like, oh, women, I know all about women. Let's go to the
Mm-hmm.
city. I'm going to get some money, like all
Mm-hmm.
that good stuff. And by the end, he's taking this kid out to the edge of the world. And so, like, he
Yeah.
obviously does tangibly change, but to end on the sentiment of I am, I was, indicates to me like I think therefore I am, like
Mm-hmm.
that is
Yeah.
kind of what he's trying to get at. And I didn't really get that from him, like I didn't
Mm.
really get that from that character.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. But yeah, I do really really adore just kind of the energy this movie has. It's wildly ambitious. It's swinging for the fences, and it mostly pays off. I think that for David, obviously, it pays off in a big way.
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like just that last day sequence is probably my favorite
Mm.
scene. It just kind of has to be. I don't know, like for me anyway.
Yeah.
It's just it's a great payoff for him, and just the growth that he's exemplified, and the way that the main scientist at cryo
Mm.
or cybertronics or whatever is like
Mm-hmm.
you're the only robot that's ever followed his heart, like decided what he wants to
Yeah.
do when he wants to do it. You chased dreams instead of giving up and just following a directive. You went beyond the parameters
Mm-hmm.
of what you've been coded to do. Which is a
Wow.
very obviously the most important part of the movie, I would say. That they were
Mm-hmm.
watching. They actually lost him for a while,
Yeah.
and all that good stuff. It's strong, man.
So their office at the beginning of the movie, that was
Hmm.
already in Manhattan. That was in Manhattan.
I believe
Like we
so.
were.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Did it not? I don't know why it seemed that like I guess they might have had to do it like in secret. Like because whenever they see the kid, it's like that's impossible. Like I feel like kids were or like it wasn't even legal to make. Was it explicitly said in the movie that like kids were off limits to make?
I don't think so. But there was like it's never been done.
Yeah, I guess
and
they're just like why? Like
we
they
do
were like,
take a
why
time
even have
jump.
a kid?
At the beginning of the movie after that though, like it's like 18 months or something like that if I remember. Like it's like a year and a half that they start producing.
Oh, okay, that's true, because they would have
Yeah.
to go through the whole process and actually make them and shit.
Mhm.
But like but at the beginning of the movie it already says that Manhattan and all the cities have been flooded and lost and everything. So at the beginning they're already working in that flooded office anyway. Like they still
That's
are
how I take it. That's definitely how I take it. I don't know what that means for their existence on a day to day, but you know, it seems like they've got means to get around, I would assume. But
yeah, because that was the only part of this watch that I'm kind of like, wait a minute, like I didn't really piece that together the first time, because when he goes back to the office, I remember the beginning of the movie and I'm like, wait a minute, that felt like it was in civilized kind of, or I don't know, normal.
Yeah, there was just a lot more
town
people there, you know, like so. But, that's it indicates to you it's not so abandoned.
And where were all those other scientists? The doctor, what was his name? Professor
Hobby or something like that.
Yeah, Hobby. Yeah. He even says like everyone else wants to talk to you. They're so eager to talk to you. We have so many questions and blah blah blah. But then he never comes back. Or I mean, David does jump off the building. I mean, he does literally go into the water at that point. But like, I feel like they weren't there. I feel like Hobby was the only one that was there for whatever. Right. Like it did not feel like anyone else was in that office at all. But
it did feel very barren.
They had all of them manufactured and like ready to go, and like more Davids ready and stuff. So like that's I don't like, it feels like maybe it was his passion project sort of thing. Like they got the one and then they realized like, I don't know, maybe this isn't a good path to go down. And then he just kind of continued it on his own and just made a shit ton of them. But I don't know. That was the only kind of part of the movie where I was like, is there more? Like, is there more here that they just didn't quite get time? You know, maybe even, I don't know, it's already long, but that they could.
Yeah, no, that's one of those things where I'm with the curiosity behind it for sure, especially for Professor Hobby's motives, because obviously David's modeled after his son. It's one of those things where it's obvious that he's got an issue that he's trying to resolve through creating another son, you know. But beyond that, I don't really know how important that would be, you know. Like they do have it mass manufactured, which means that they are ready to sell the dolls, like that's or dolls, the kids, which does indicate, at least on some level, a level of coherence on the corporate level. Like they are at least aware of what's happening. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really know, but
I guess he falls into what's the explanation for how the Earth like just kind of it froze over or whatever. It was over a long span of time, but like were there Davids out there, or like was it very soon after David falls into the water and gets trapped? I think
it's just a evolution of climate change. I think that's all that they're getting at. You know, the water levels rose and then the Earth froze over. We enter another ice age, sort of thing.
Yeah, because it's interesting to like the future. Or the immediate future right after David falls into the water, or like what happens right after that we didn't see.
Right, like what's
interesting? Yeah,
the
like
quote unquote present timeline.
And like if because I feel like this like he does make like say like this is the first. You know, you are maybe not as special, or you know, as my son, you're not, you know, but you are the first ever, and that is, I feel like it would kind of change the game. Like this would be a moment.
One thing that we discussed, you know, whenever we were texting while we were watching the movie, that it feels like three different movies: the like sort of family drama, you know, the adventure, and then aliens. Those aren't aliens.
It's just them, or it's
they figured out how to merge the Orga and the Mecha.
That's right. Okay, that's right.
You know,
they did say that.
So these, I would say, are like the descendants of David, which is why David's kind of like a god. You know, like they want him to be happy. That's kind of how I look at it. Like they evolved from David, or the David model, ostensibly. You know, he's their last tether to humanity, which none of them really possess. But they've evolved so far beyond that at this point. So like, yeah, I don't know. It's I don't take them to be aliens anyway. I guess they could be, but they definitely felt like there's a mechanical component to them, obviously, that I kind of view as they mention at some point too that at some point there's going to be a merging of the Orga and the Mecha, and that's how it's, you know, like that's the ideal. And I think that's what they are the example of.
Yeah, that's, I guess, like it might be showing that the first time that they made a robot not just for a task and for it truly to be able to think on its own and have its own aspirations is when the leap, you know, could finally be made, or kind of like the history after that isn't important. It's just
and there's also a really strong visual cue that kind of feeds that for me, which is the very first shot of David walking off the elevator when he's blurry and he's backlit like crazy. His silhouette looks like one of them. It's really thin and yeah. So like I do think that they are a product of David's discovery, sort of, you know.
This being, to whatever they are, like whatever they, I don't know, whatever they call themselves, this like is so cool. Like the fact that they can just like
great design,
kind of read memories too, and like just touch each other to share everything is that's sick. I feel like on it sounds kind of crazy and woo woo, but like I feel like humans are capable of that in some way. I don't know. It feels like a lost art of like being able to touch. I don't know, because like I don't know. We do have electricity flowing through us. Like it is
well,
legit.
And there's,
I don't know.
And it's evolved, you know, like the way that our brains register body language and emotion and experience and context. Like there's a whole other algorithm our brains operate under that does, in effect, grant us a similar power to this. Obviously not literally like, oh, I can see your whole story, but I can get the picture, you know.
Yeah. This, but I don't know. This it feels, you know, kind of Jedi-like or Force-like to say, I don't know, something like this, but it's like, am I just blocking my brain off from certain things because I think they're so unrealistic or magical that it's stupid to even think about it? But if I were to train my brain in that way, could it actually have, you know, it's like, I always think these things of like, are we just so like past the time of thinking of these things as realistic that it has been lost like over time? Is that like even a possibility that humans were just
at
doing
some point
shit?
Could have evolved to do shit like this, and we just locked it out. We burnt them at the stake for being witches type shit.
But I don't know. I don't think I think I'm. I don't know.
No, we're a little off the deep end there, but
going crazy.
We're off the deep end a little bit there, but no, it's There's a lot to love about this movie, man. I think it's a gorgeous looking movie. You know, I think that Spielberg and Kaminsky on photography it's a really, really great duo, and this has some signature early aughts, late 90s Spielberg isms, if you will, like the overblown exposure, like the really bright white lighting is very, very common for him, especially around this time when he was in a little bit of a sci-fi era. He did this, and then Minority Report, and then War of the Worlds, and that was I think those were 3 in a row. So he did a little sci-fi trilogy there for himself. You know, another thing that always occurs to me when we watch a sci-fi movie from this time period is that, you know, Phantom Menace was 2 years earlier, Attack of the Clones was a year later. And when it comes to Spielberg specifically, before Lucas settled on directing all 3 of those prequels by himself, Spielberg was kind of a top contender. Like, I would like Spielberg to direct one of the prequel films, and it's always interesting to see what like could have been a little bit with his sci-fi movies, because he goes big. It's not intimate like it's not just small little things when he does sci-fi. No, it's big fucking swings. AI, Minority Report, and War of the Worlds are all massive movies, with grandiose visions and sets that are beyond our comprehension a little bit. Not War of the Worlds so much, but it gets there, to be sure. But
Yeah, I love the like every set here is so clearly not anywhere like on Earth. I mean, it's just in a different time. Like it's clearly like they've put the time into make
aside
sure
from The
details like
Office.
that.
Yeah, The Office is like the only thing that looks tangible. But like beyond that, yeah, like even the house, like the general design and layout of that house doesn't. It's not a real house, and if it is a real house, they make billions of dollars. You know what I'm saying?
That house is sick. Yeah, that bedroom, that child, like
the
that
bed, pod bed
like,
is
dude,
sick.
Yeah, no, that room. Oh my god, I would never leave that room. There's no point. But yeah,
hey, I get it. I empathize. But fuck Martin, bro. Fuck Martin until the day I die. Martin's a bitch. I don't like that kid.
He is kind of a bully. Like
and like don't get me wrong, I get it. You know, you get chronically sick, you go to sleep for a few years, your mom goes ahead and adopts another kid essentially.
Fair.
You know, you resent him a little bit. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But taking advantage of him in such a profound way is so mean, you know, like it's just so mean. But again, you know, we're dealing with stuff that we can't really comprehend because we're not here yet. You know, would this be? I mean, it's mean regardless. But like, are there people who watch this movie and go, "Well, that's not mean. He's a fucking robot."
I think the only equivalent I can get to right now of today is how people like can bypass the restrictions on ChatGPT about not saying harmful things or something. Like you trick it into being like, all right, apple for yes, blueberry for no, or whatever, and like you get it to say something that you don't want it to. But this is a whole different league of like actually getting a physical thing to go do an action that is like against its like fucking
closest thing I can
instinct.
Also think too on a more realistic, like on a more tangible level, is like as an older sibling convincing your younger sibling that flipping your middle finger means thank you or something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
people are gonna be so happy whenever they see that too.
They love it. It's so sweet.
You want to do it to as many people as possible, and they'll just think of you as, such a nice.
You're just
person.
nice.
Yeah. But no, I wonder, like. I love like having like Teddy in here to show the lineage of like toys because even
Teddy's the shit.
Martin was that his name? Yeah. Fuck Martin. Even he says like, oh, you're the new super toy. You know that even David is still a toy at this point, even though it's like, nah, I don't know. There's a difference between Teddy and David. But
that's what's interesting about Teddy though, is that I don't think he would contend that there's much of a difference. You know, they're like, you guys playing with your toy, and Teddy looks at her and goes, I am not a toy. You know, true. He's like, now obviously different bodies and different presentations and everything, but Teddy clearly shows an understanding of, I mean, understands David better than anybody in the movie. You know, whenever the lock of hair drops, he's like, this will probably be important. Fuck it. I'll keep that.
I'll tuck that in my fucking groin, my thigh hole or whatever. Yeah, it's like a, hey,
sew it up on after.
Did come in clutch. Yeah, I mean, that was, it felt like it was crazy that the company was doing a lot of things to kind of keep him in line and check on him and stuff, but a lot of other things were clearly out of their control, or like there's no way they could have planned any of this sort of thing. It felt like, I don't know, there was like this they were looking at him and controlling his life, but also like this fate kind of thing where like he had to exist for this long so that these creatures could find him for whatever reason, and you know, kind of like a I don't know what another movie. I was thinking like Arrival and like we need your help in 4,000 years, but
right.
Not I don't know. This moment just needed to happen. I don't know, to birth them. I feel like David just needed to be preserved or something.
Yeah, like there's a little bit of a meant to be sort of situation there. But to go back to Teddy briefly, you know, you said that he does display the evolution. Obviously, the only thing he's incapable of doing is following his own path. You know, like he has to follow. He follows David everywhere. But the fact that he did hold on to the lock of hair at all indicates, obviously, like it comes in as a Deus Ex Machina, like, oh, you could think of it like maybe this will come in handy. There's no reason for him to have thought that. You know,
That's true.
there's no reason for him to have thought it would come in handy. It's sentimentality. This is the woman whose house he's lived in for forever, and you know
Mm.
she loves the boys that he hangs out with, and he's like, you know what,
Mm-hmm.
this, you know, maybe I hold on to this, you know, like I think that's at least how I read it, is that it is some form of sentimentality that brings him to carry it with him.
Mm. Yeah, I
Reminds him
wonder
of home or something.
if he overheard that conversation between David and Martin, and
Mm,
like he was like, if you hold on to it, she'll love you more, and like
yeah,
and he was like, oh, I need to do that because David or Teddy did run. He's like, mommy, mommy, mommy. Like he ran, like he was like,
yeah,
whenever they were doing that test, like, let's see who he runs to. And then Monica walks in the room and he just beeline, just
yeah.
absolutely sends it for Monica. So yeah, I mean, there's maybe it's just like love, like anything that's programmed to love, they even say at the beginning that like, the one robot thinks of love as like increasing her temperature a little bit, her
Yeah,
heart rate gets a little
sensuality.
faster,
Yeah.
whatever. But I feel like I don't know, maybe if there's a different way to program it, that's the closest thing you can get to of like free will or like acting on your own or someone else, and you're acting for a different reason than your own programming sort of thing. So yeah, it's like
Mm.
I don't know, maybe it's anything with love. If you got any ounce of it, it can change everything. But yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
and
because
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that's like all David is all love. That's like his only like programming is just to love the whoever imprints on him as hard as possible forever, with no change. So it's like I don't know. Maybe obviously we don't know where AI and like what will wake up stuff, obviously, but I think like it's a nice way to kind of to say the first ever AI to kind of fully become conscious or do things on its own was just one that was just basically all love and nothing
Yeah.
else. No
Well,
robotic
and it's
tendencies.
interesting to know if you are creating a robot with the goal of it becoming conscious, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um and you do program it originally to love, Henry raises the very valid concern, doesn't that mean it can hate
Mm,
also, you know?
yeah. Yeah.
And we do obviously see that David is capable of that whenever he destroys the other version of himself, beats it to
Yeah.
death. Um, you
Not
know,
happy.
not happy, not
Jealousy.
happy. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
That
exactly.
goes
And
hand
I
in
think that
hand.
there's something that's interesting though, where that David, like, he never would have done that to Martin, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because the woman he loves Martin. You know, this David,
Mm.
nobody gives a fuck about this David. I'm gonna kill this David. You know, like, I hate this David. I'm jealous of this David. He might have been jealous of Martin a little bit, but he didn't. He was jealous of
Mm-hmm.
Martin's humanity more than he was his uniqueness. You know, Martin was, by all accounts, like every other little boy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was because he was a real live boy that he was like, maybe I envy you a little bit. You know, you get to eat food at the table with them at night. I
Mm.
just sit there and play with utensils and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I know even before Martin, I guess, is in the picture having that like first dinner where,
Mm-hmm.
he cracks up like I mean, bro would let it out, scared him at first. But then it was like that first
They
kind of
surrender.
moment they had together. Yeah, and it was like all of the like that's why I think the first act, I think I just can't put anything above it because it just had so many of these little like first moments of like
Mm.
what they're the first family testing this. They're like the alpha testers for fucking a conscious kid or like a robotic kid for the first time in human history. And it's cool to the father just kind of being like, well, he's like part of the company and like he wants it to be a thing. He like already knew she was gonna say yes. He's like, yeah, I already signed this. You're gonna need to sign this. And even though he's being like, no, I'll do whatever you want to do, huh? I think it was just he kind of knew it was going to go down this way, but he never imprinted whatever, had no interest really, whatever. It was just kind of like, just all Monica. So I don't know, maybe it was truly like it was just Monica was grieving a little, I don't know, a lot more or couldn't handle it, or something. And I don't know, it's just the father just kind of seemed out of the picture quite, of the movie. And I don't know, I feel it would have been nice to maybe have something with him too. If they like, if he also imprinted later on or something like that, and I don't know, it changed. I guess I don't know. It's a lot more to add in an already stuffed movie, but um, yeah, just I don't know. Spielberg likes his mother. I don't know, or the
He
I don't
does love
know.
his mother. Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of I don't know. It's maybe it's just more. I don't know how to say this without. Uh, it's like just a mother, like a kid and a mother, just feels more lovely than a kid and a father for some reason. I
Mm.
don't know why. Like I feel like maybe it is just the
No, I
gender
mean there's
norms,
a
or just the
yeah, there's a little bit of
but.
something there, but no, I think that it's kind of what we've been to a degree programmed to believe, because of societal and gender norms, like there is a certain degree of motherly love
Mm-hmm.
that you are taught and generationally has been quite accurate to be unconditional, like
Mm-hmm.
it was only within the last couple generations that on a widespread scale it feels like fatherly love is every bit as unconditional, whereas
Mm.
in the era Spielberg grew up in, and maybe and prior, it was like men weren't
Mm-hmm.
allowed to love, they weren't allowed to be happy, it was
Yeah.
like I go to work and I put food on the table and you treat me well because I'm the man of the
Mm-hmm.
house, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that there's a certain degree here where it's also creating a family dynamic like this where Henry is the one who brings the kid into the house and then is ultimately the one
Mm-hmm.
who's like, oh, it doesn't fucking matter, like it's just a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is it kind of, again, I think it does play on those
Mm.
societal norms a bit heavy-handedly, but I do think that there is also a great deal of nuance when it comes to the portrayal of the mom. I can't remember her name. Monica.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the portrayal of Monica, because I mean, it takes a while to break down her walls, and then even when they are broken down,
Mm-hmm.
she obviously still loves Martin more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like there's no getting around that either. Like it's just how it's
Yeah.
going to be. Um, and there's a really interesting way where she feels guilty about the way she feels, and that's part of why she ends up
Mm.
taking him back, like
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah, it's
uh
complicated, but I appreciate how much nuance they treat it with, for sure.
it's it like at least having a kid that seemingly was dead, and you have no idea that there even is a chance for Martin. I don't know why I feel like I keep
Mm-hmm.
like I don't know why that seems wrong every time, but like it doesn't seem like there's a chance of him coming back. It does, like you do have this sense of like, ooh, like that feels like a softening the wound, or like getting, I don't know, like this is a little different. But if I wonder if they just started the movie of like parents who were unable to have kids, they just couldn't,
Right.
just it wasn't a thing they could do if they, and then just getting a David for them, how differently that would kind of play. Because
Right.
I feel like there isn't that kind of sense of guilt really.
Oh
It
yeah,
like
I mean, like you said, it would play completely differently, and it makes me curious how like how far does the Cybertronics control sort of stretch? Like did they want Monica to not bring him to the
Ooh,
facility? You know, like because they tracked his movements, he eventually got away.
yeah.
They wanted to see what he would do. Is that something if he had gotten to Cybertronics, would they have just let him go and see what he did? Or was that something that they were hoping for, kind of, in a way? Like I don't know. I'm curious about how far that
Mm,
extends, or if it was just like, oh well, this is happening, let's see where it goes. Like that sort of vibe.
yeah.
I
Martin's comeback is kind of, the timing's a little was
mm-hmm.
that planned, was that like, all right, let's give him a kid. Let's also, we know their current kid is in a coma or whatever or something, and we can, I don't know, they somehow have control of whenever they can wake him up or something, knowing that like whenever that kid goes back, they will obviously return David or something, at that point.
Mm.
But yeah, I feel like that if they can track him in whatever, like the whole time, and they know where, yeah, I feel
It's weird. Like I'm not saying that it's a surefire thing.
Yeah.
In fact, I'd be willing to bet that a lot of it is happy accident. Like a lot of it is kind of like oh shit, yeah, let's see where this goes. And because Monica, it's very genuine of her. You know, she's being like she's not being like told to do that or anything. That's she decides on a whim at the last second. I'm not taking you there. I'm going to let you go so you have a chance to live. You know, don't run that way. Stay away from flesh fairs. Stay away from people. Just people like you, okay? And that scene's heart wrenching, dude. Like again, it's why Haley Joel Osment's getting my performance for this movie because holy shit. But there's the no, mommy, no, like just that whole thing. Oof, fucking oof. Good
maybe
stuff.
They are playing on like a mother's instinct, knowing that like a mother will do like stop at nothing to protect their kid,
right?
And they're testing. Ooh, maybe they are testing that too. That's a part of their test. Is Monica as well? Like they are testing how does the human respond?
How does the human
like,
love? Yeah. Can
like
the human love the child? Yeah.
And obviously, yeah, like Monica, it isn't to the level of Martin, but there is still something there, which is like this is a movie and fake, but like given like the real terms, if this was in real life, I feel like we would be capable of somewhat loving this thing, which is like
100%.
crazy to think about. And it's like what always gets me is like even humans a long time ago were seen, you know, we weren't seen as loving. We were seen as, you know, we were just surviving. There was no time for us to even love. It was just we had to survive back in the day. But now we have like I feel like the most leisure time out of any creature there is. And I feel like the more leisure time you have, the more just time you have for other things that aren't survival. And I feel like just the opposite of survival is just love and, I don't know, compassion and wanting to grow. And like I feel like it is just kind of that. So like if you just give any creature enough time and not to worry about their own survival, like does this just happen naturally? I feel like it is just this enough time, you know, you just given enough time sort of thing. And
that's interesting. I don't know that I 100% agree with the idea that we have the most leisure time of any animal or any mammal or anything like that. And because, you know, parental love exists all over the animal kingdom, and obviously there are also examples of them being like, now you're just on your own, fuck it, go ahead, you know, like there are obviously those other examples where it's like, yeah, I plant you here and then you grow and I don't see you ever again. That also happens. But, you know, I mean, obviously monkeys aren't far removed from us. They exhibit a lot of similar behaviors as we do. I mean, bears and bear cubs, lions and lion cubs, and all over the mammal kingdom anyway. There's a lot to be said for how we handle things as mammals, I would say. It is more amphibious and reptilian that it starts to get cold, you know, and kind of just like, yep, now you're alive. Good luck.
Maybe it's more like we're more stretched out through time. Like to go from newborn to being able to be on your own is like so long. Like, I mean, for a human, it is long as shit. But a fucking elephant could be pooped out in walking. Like, I mean, they start walking, and that's kind of nuts. And I feel like we don't have to worry, I guess, about like someone coming and killing us in our sleep. Like we don't have to worry about our next meal. Yeah. We don't have to like,
yeah, hopefully not. Yeah.
Like I feel like it is just like this. And also our brains are just bigger and we can think more complex. Like yeah, I feel like that is also a big advantage that we have. But like, I wonder if you just give an elephant enough time, like give it its own space, it doesn't have to worry about anything. You give it food, you give it everything it needs and just a little more brain power. If enough time, does it become just like us? Does it just want its own thing? You know, one its I don't know, own prosperity and all these things. Like it's always interesting to me. And then like a computer, but a computer is completely different. It's like,
well, and a computer is completely different. But if the computer wakes up, how different is it? You know, like we love our animals. You know, we love our pets.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, our pets are living, breathing things. But when you're when you have a robot that is looking at
Mm-hmm.
you, telling you that it loves you, and it looks just like a child, and it's like, how long does it
Yeah.
take before you just surrender to that in a way? You know, like, is it
Mm.
not? I don't know. I don't see. I do see it as distinctly possible that I think that the desire for love that exists within humans is also quite the factor in this. I think that
Mm.
a lot of humans want to love. They want to be loved, and when
Mm-hmm.
something comes along, they'll do whatever it takes to keep that.
Mm.
I think that's kind of human nature as well. So I do think that there's
Mm-hmm.
uh, it was a valid question asked by her, but I don't think it's as complex as as she thought it would be. I think
Yeah.
that and that they actually introduced the kid into a really really complicated situation. I don't know that they were the best control
Mm.
group, um,
That's true.
but
Yeah,
I do
for
think that
for
like you said, if it was a couple that can't have kids,
mm-hmm.
you know, and they're living in a time where you need like permits and stuff
Mm-hmm.
to have kids, like all that good stuff. You go ahead and give one of them this kid, and yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's an absolute great addition to their lives. Now obviously they couldn't have anticipated Martin or anything waking up. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's why the Professor Hobby's son having died is obviously what motivates him to be like, I made this for this scenario,
Mm-hmm.
because but like
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just it's simultaneously more complicated and more simple than they're making it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Their task is just to make a glorified toy, kind of at the end of the day. But in reality, it is like no, they're manufacturing life. Like it is
Yeah.
kind of like it is to like the biggest kind of scale. And
You
and
want
I
to
think it
rewatch Westworld? No, I'm just kidding.
Y- y-
I
I wish I
obviously
could.
just
Yes. No,
yeah, no shit.
I wish I could. I would if it it would be a problem if it was on
Would that
Max
it
too.
were?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be a problem for me. But I wonder if it's like more a matter of definition. Like we think of like robots and whatever is just circuits, whatever. But
Artificial.
like you can break a human down and it sounds pretty robotic. Like we have a bunch of sensors on the outside of our body that take in information that literally send electrical signals to a central
Yeah.
processing unit, and then we give our best guess as to what's going on. Like
Well,
it's
and
like,
that's why like I'm not so and there's a lot of fine lines and there's a lot of nuance to the issue, so I don't want to but I feel like because of that I'm not entirely anti artificial intelligence.
mm-hmm,
I think it's really closed-minded to be entirely
mm,
anti artificial intelligence. You know what I'm saying? Like
mm-hmm,
now do I think it has a place in our art? No. I think that that's not a place where it belongs. Once the AI is capable of creating the art on its own,
mm,
entirely independently thinking, wholly different
nice,
situation.
yes, yes,
But
mm-hmm,
to just kind of be staunchly blanket no AI, that can only be
mm-hmm,
bad. I just disagree with that. I think that this movie is, and obviously it's fiction, so there's something there, but
mm-hmm,
it's it's stuff like this that kind of gives me hope that there would actually be some sort of future for AI that wouldn't be just, well, we're going to conquer humanity and make them,
yeah.
battery farms.
We don't want to turn into the Matrix,
No.
hopefully
Well,
not,
and
but
what's fucked up is I trust that some artificially intelligent entity would hesitate to do that more than the richest man alive, you know? Um,
yeah. Yeah, that it's probably yeah, true. I would trust a computer more nowadays than the I don't know
than the
the
top
people who are
1% of people
actually
who are actually there.
making the
Like I do
decisions.
think that they would have worse
Hmm.
intentions than some AI that was cooked up. Like it's just I
Yeah,
don't know, man.
yeah. I don't know. I'm looking like just to the right of me. I have my computer and I'm just looking at it and like it's just a machine that I've made and it thinks for me. It does so many things for me. But like there's pipes and water cooling things and like all these wires and stuff and like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like given enough time, like do computers eventually just become like humans? Will we have it so like manufactured that it like these wires become veins and nerves
Yeah.
and literally like what we have. And like
Their
I feel
blood
like
is data. Yeah.
yeah,
Like
and so like
electrical currents. Yeah.
it feels almost like humans ourselves like are just robots to the ultimate degree, you know, and like
Mm-hmm.
just maybe dumbed down to a degree, even though a
No,
robot can
100%.
be,
Well,
you
that's
know,
that's
or
that's
whatever.
the
But
reason that the part that can't click is consciousness. That's the thing we don't understand. You
mm,
know, like we can replicate us pretty fucking easily. You
mm-hmm.
know, like there. I mean, obviously we're incredibly intricate machines, but we got our anatomy down. You know, like we know what's going on
That's
inside of
true.
us. You know, like we know what's going on in there. We can rebuild that. It's just making it
The
turn
brain,
on.
yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's
what, like,
that's a code we just haven't
uh,
cracked. And
mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't.
And
It's
the end,
fascinating.
I guess, deals with that concept of like we can wake your mom back up, but it'll only be for a day. Like
I
we don't
loved
know
that.
why. Yeah, we're
I
like,
loved that.
oh,
That's
dude,
this
that
time
was
around the
ooh,
idea that you occupy
ooh,
a certain path in
mm-hmm.
space time, and
Yep,
once that time ends, that's
yep,
it. Your path is shut. That's a.
mm-hmm.
I didn't really. I didn't really. I don't know. Get that the first time around.
Yeah,
Not that I didn't get it, but it didn't resonate with me
yeah.
the way that
This,
it did this
ooh,
time. I think that they
ooh,
find such a
man.
fascinating way to make it. You know, it's not anti-life either. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
you were meant to live during the time you lived, and there's no
Yeah,
bringing you back. You know, like we're not just plopping consciousness into robots and going, well, now you get to live
mm-hmm.
forever. No, what makes life precious is that it ends. You know,
Yeah.
like that we do not live forever is why life is good. Um,
Oh, it was so like it, and it could just be for the movie, you know, to make it hit harder that you just want her to come back for a day. But I honestly like the idea of it like being real, you know, actually more.
yeah,
Like it is kind of like this it's confused, like your consciousness is confused. You're like, I am not in the right space and time. I am in the right body, but yeah, this isn't like I love whenever she's like getting sleepy, she's like, yeah, something just came over me, or like
yeah,
I don't know, like I'm just boom, and like they just, and it's I always think of like when I was a kid, I always just thought of like the planets in the solar system as just the sun's right in the middle, we're going around in a circle, you know, and that's kind of it. And then when I saw the first animation of like the sun actually beaming and going off in a direction, and we spinning around that, like moving the sun, you know, when we're moving around, spinning around, I don't know, it's all this, everything else is moving at the same time. And then
mm,
now this, like knowing that, and then having this, like it clicked with me the first time of like there's so much void, there is so much empty and nothing, that like it's a perfect, it, if this is real, it's like a perfect description of space-time. Like there's a
right.
reason for all of that empty, so that the movement of all these planets and galaxies and whatever can make their imprint, and it can be traced back and read again. Because if this, the, I don't know, the more void you have, I don't know, the easier it is to actually track, like to reverse orbits and stuff. But the more
Mm,
planets and the more stuff there is there and more chaos, the harder it is to tell exactly. There's more possibilities for what it could have been back in the day. But the void
right.
is like it's absolute. It kind of makes it, it tunes into exactly, I don't know, one thing. And that idea of just kind of your consciousness being, I don't know, only in that time too, is just cool. Like the
Yeah, like there being a literal tether to space time
mm-hmm.
for your soul is kind of awesome. Like I think that
Yeah.
that's a it's a great concept. You know, I think that there's and it really hit hard for me on this watch. I really loved that. I think that it just again makes life all the more precious. You know, like the night, like
Mm.
I understood and still do to an extent the thought process behind nihilism. You know, like there were
Mm.
nothing but meat sacks floating on a rock in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere. But doesn't that make this more precious? Like the fact that we do
Mm-hmm.
exist at all and a
Dude.
miracle. Like, isn't that a
Yeah.
miracle? Like, I don't know. Like, that's
Yeah.
just kind of how I look at it.
You are a meat sack that gets 100 years, ideally, you know, on a really good day. You get 100 years, and you just get to fuck around and do whatever you want on a
Dude.
planet that provides food for you and air to breathe and anything you want. You're good. Yeah, and it's like, and we live in a time where the Earth is happy for it. Even though it's not the best state right now, it still is way better than living through an ice age or all like
Yeah.
it's like every little any way you slice it, it's like no, it's actually it's nice. I don't know. A movie that can get you to think like this or to talk like this, I think is just this. It's my kind of jam. Yeah, we could not have started March off, I think, with a better movie. A Spielberg, with some Kubrick, in there, some Kubrick sauce. But Spielberg came in and did the fine tuning and actually made it human. Hit. Yeah, I feel like Spielberg has a lot more.
There's a lot of Spielberg
impact.
all over it. Yeah, the sentimentality certainly is classic vintage Spielberg. The final note, it ends on with them falling asleep side by side and stuff, and he finally closed his eyes and went to sleep. Like it's really, really strong. I love that. It's a great ending, and all the lights in the house turning off. He had his last day too, and I think it's a really, really great way to conclude this movie. I really, really love it. But yeah, man, it's another goodie. We've done a bunch of goodies here on the Cinementalists, and we're not going to stop anytime soon. Do you have anything else to say, or shall I do the plugs?
I think we're ready for it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we just concluded the giveaway. Actually, the Cinementalist giveaway is over. We announced the winners on Monday on our little post-Oscars show.
Right.
We went over some of the winners. We talked about how we felt about that. And the winner was announced on that. So if you haven't heard, I did reach out to the people who did win, so don't worry about it. But yeah, we had winners announced over there. And we talked about the Oscars on Monday, so there's that. But we will be back next Friday with another sci-fi film, and we're going way in a different direction. We're going Pacific Rim next Friday. We're going kaijus and giant robots, and obviously, I mean, not robots, just giant sort of mecha suits. They're not conscious or anything. Humans do control them. So I would hesitate to even call them robots, but. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for Pacific Rim. Another Guillermo del Toro. Love me some GDT, so that's going to be exciting. The week after that, we're going to hit you with Sunshine on St. Paddy's Day, and I'm excited for that, led by Cillian Murphy, who we're going to be celebrating as our Irish superstar there that day. Then on Joe's birthday, the 21st, we're going to be covering Tron, the original Tron. We've already got Tron Legacy way back in the backlog. In fact, it will be the first episode if you scroll way down. And then we're going to top the month off with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bruce Willis, and Ryan Johnson for Looper, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And then after that, it's Mission Impossible, baby. So we got a lot of fun going on. We just started our Twin Peaks podcast. It's called Fire Pod with Me, a Twin Peaks podcast. You go ahead and look into that. If you are a first-time watcher of Twin Peaks, if you've never watched Twin Peaks, there's no better time than now when you have a companion podcast. We are picking it apart week by week. You get to take your time, breeze, and if you do breeze through it, fine. The podcast is friendly to the rewatcher because this is my fourth rewatch. You get to listen to me kind of go, I drop little hints in there. I've already told Joe some things that like almost certainly do happen, that he would never have known because I theorize so much with him on the fly that some of it's real, some of it's not, but all of it's well-meaning. All of it could be feasible, so like it's a lot of fun. Fire Pod with me. If you have never watched Twin Peaks, now's the time. If you have, go ahead and revisit it with us. It's a great time. So that's on Mondays. We're 2 episodes deep right now. Episode 3 is next week. Let's see. I think that's that. We're still a couple months out from Andor season 2 starting. That'll be when we start Fulcrum back up. But yeah, in the meantime, it's just Twin Peaks and some movies, baby. So Cinementalists and Fire Pod with me. You can also look up Death by Television. It still has all of our House of the Dragon and Penguin and Creature Commandos and Game of Thrones. That's where we're doing Fire Pod with me. So we rebranded it while we're doing this for the next year or so. So yeah, that's everything we got going on. Leave a 5-star rate and review and download wherever you might be listening. And share the show. We got a lot of movie coverage, a lot of good movies. Go ahead and watch those movies and listen to us talk about them. But let's go ahead and rate AI, artificial intelligence. How are you feeling?
Well, it is a little bit too long. That is for sure. The ending, I wish it kept the strength of the first act all the way through. If it did that, it would be in the 9s for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's But I think I'm somewhere in the eights or a 7.75. I don't know. Even sounds kind of low. Or a 7.5.
It's
That's
it's a
it's
little
like
low for me. I think I would go
maybe like
eights.
eight. Yeah, like eight
Maybe eight straight
two
up
five or eight. Yeah, it's like a 880 might be it.
yeah. I think I'm cool with an 8 out of 10 personally. It's a really strong movie. It's really ambitious and it's a
Mm-hmm.
huge swing, which is automatically enough for me to give you some credit. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you have a director like Spielberg behind it, a lot of those swings are home runs. You know, a lot of it gets handled well. There's a lot of great ideas. We had a great conversation here. I think that it's a genuinely good movie. I think that it had
Mm-hmm.
room to be great. But I don't think it quite reaches that. So I think
Yeah.
eight's cool with me.
Yeah. Eight. We gave Sorry to Bother You and Almost Rainbow an 8.25. So I think like that
Yeah, that's
that's
about where I
that's
land.
nice. Yeah. I think I do enjoy those other two a little bit more. I think they're a lot more
They're just a little more.
what's the word? Put together. They're a lot more
Yeah,
well-rounded, I feel
yeah.
like.
We
But
we were texting last night that this feels like three different movies, and while that
mhm.
I think it's a fun thing, it's not strictly a
Mhm.
good thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
there's just so much that happens that it's a little disjointed, and I think that does cause it to suffer a little bit.
Mhm.
But I mean it a little bit, like a little bit. It's still an 8 out of 10 for me. So I'm cool with that, bringing it to an 80%.
Mhm.
And I believe that
Yeah.
that is that for AI, artificial intelligence. We will be back next week with Pacific Rim. You gotta be there. You gotta be there. But yeah, in the meantime, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. And remember, Gigolo Joe, what do you know?